maybe today I am feeling a little bit more that way, third worldist, whatever. But I feel like this is also really important to just to clarify for anybody listening. This is not at all, at least in my own mind, um, a rejection of the point I keep trying to make about the saying I'm fond of quoting when Ben Franklin says, "A republic, madam, if you can keep it." I am in favor of keeping it, but that is a responsibility. That is a thing for us to fix. We're the ones who have to do it. And so when we say, "Oh, it's not us; it's the government that does it," yeah, that's true because the government doesn't really represent us. But what are we doing about it? And to the extent that we can't really come up with an answer, that means we are essentially, to some degree, you know, acquiescing. And
Yeah, I
so
think I think you're
I
making a very
it's
Sartrean point of a Sartrean uh, radical responsibility that you don't get to disclaim responsibility for your unconscious, unintentional actions that are the things that are a result of what you do. Everything you do is your choice, and you have to assume responsibility for it. You don't get to weasel out from under it and say, "Oh, it's not us, it's them."
Right.
No, actually, you're on the hook here, and you got to do something about it. And if you
right.
choose not to, well, then there you go.
If you pay your taxes,
Right. Right.
and even if all you can do is make a single issue protest vote, say, "Oh, I'm going to vote for whoever's like the guy running for Senate who's not going to take APAC money," that's at least doing something. I do have a higher standard that I want to hold the socialist movement to, but when I say we, I mean the broad collective we in this proverbial sense, like the whole country. We're all kind of a
Okay,
little bit.
so APAC closed its online donor portal to 15 House Democrats it had endorsed for re-election after they voted to cut off 3.3 billion in U.S. aid to Israel, effectively
Yeah.
blocking financial support for its PAC to those lawmakers. They didn't
See, that
formally
is kind of
rescind endorsement, but removed the donation buttons.
Uh,
Hakeem Jeffries was not affected, and anyway, whatever.
yeah, Clark was
Obviously,
the minority whip, so
yeah.
as high up as it really gets beneath
Mm-hmm.
Jeffries. I did read that that APAC is like having closed door meetings with these representatives, and they're like, look, we understand the tide is changing, and we're going to allow for some kind of performative, you know, uh,
Yeah.
resistance for your voter base, but there's like a kind of an understanding in some of these cases.
Well, they tried to in this past election deflect detectability by using bundlers that were
Yeah,
not straight from their PAC, but like people found out and just reported it as APAC donations, which is why it was Jasmine Crockett in Texas. She got dinged by Track APAC and protested that she wasn't taking APAC money. And then so a bunch of like shit libs were like, leftists are liars. Jasmine Crockett took no APAC money, but like a cursory Googling would show you that she took money from massive APAC donors directly that were bundled through some other thing. And so yeah, it was she was still taking APAC money.
and big gambling money, I think.
Yeah, I think everyone's taking that now.
so. It's one of the big symptoms of our decline as a country
I,
is the pervasiveness of online gambling.
so I just saw a
Yeah, dude.
CNN story. One second, Kevin. I just saw a CNN story that you can bet on Kalshi about forest fires.
Oh
they're,
yeah.
they're linking it to potential arsons, of course.
Yeah. I don't. So, calling society degenerate is supposed to be like it is a right wing word analysis or whatever, bit of rhetoric. But man, I don't know. Like, how can you look at that and not just
Yeah.
see just pure degeneracy? I
Just
don't
see
know.
the last days of the Western Roman Empire, you know?
Yeah, like decadence doesn't quite capture that one. Like holy shit, the way that
This is
online gambling it just like came out of nowhere and just smashed through all regulatory barriers and has become just a pervasive fact of American life now. That just everyone is constantly gambling about everything.
Yeah.
all over the place, and it's constantly being advertised to like young people, to like youth. It's insane. Absolutely fucking irredeemable degeneracy, man.
And it's become part and parcel of sport, of like all sports. Everything you watch on TV, all the ads are for sports betting, and the revenue.
Did you see? Did you see recently on Breaking Points where Sagar said that he had been approached by some group that wanted him to drop more anti-sports betting stuff into his online presence, and he rejected it whenever he figured out that it was because it was the predictions betting people that were trying to keep sports betting from being legalized in more places.
Yeah, they're trying to protect their turf.
Yep.
And so, lest I am transformed into a third worldist America hater only, I want to kind of bring up the first end again when I talk about when I say we came to the limits of our aspirations and thus our hopes of our utopian horizons during the late Cold War into the Cold War era. I guess I want to just kind of quantify that a little bit, and I want to start that with at one point there were these people who had this idea that maybe we'll make a better life if representatives get to decide the government policy rather than the king. That is a utopian vision. And the next generation was like, oh, we will make a better life if we can have some land of our own. Now, of course, that does mean we're going to have to fight the people who live there already, what are all of the indigenous people. And it's tragic, it's terrible. But also, I'm just going to say this is the dialectical unfolding of freedom in the world, in civilization. But with every passing generation, whether we have the first women's rights movement, or we have the abolition of slavery, or we got to go out west to find gold, or whatever. We have to help make the world safe for democracy, or we have to help beat Hitler, or we have to go to the moon, or even if we have to defeat the evil empire of communism for our glorious consumer civilization, which is also Christian and free, whatever. Even at their most absurd, those are all utopian visions.
Yeah.
And we just don't have one now. So I don't just mean that of course we've always had problems as well, but we've always had dissenters. But what are we supposed to dissent against now other than just everything? What's good, what's worth holding on to, and what is worth being the basis of your opposition, so as to have something to look forward to as you try to fix what the problem is. If we don't have any basis for this utopian hope, this utopian vision, our protests become spectacle, and they are. If you go to a protest lately, you know what I mean. It's quite the conundrum. But it's based. What I'm trying to say is that this is a new problem, but I do think it's new. And it's relatively new. It's new as of the last generation or so.
Well, one of the articles we read, and you gave us, I think, 3 or 4 op-eds from The Guardian, all written by Brits. I think you're commenting. I think the one
was written by an American, but the other ones were written by Brits. Yeah.
The one by Stephen Marche was basically arguing that this has been the roots of what the untethering are written into the DNA of the project from the start. There's some insightful things. There's some, I think, overly neat diagnoses going on there. But I would even stretch back further. What you're talking about, Jason, are we often talk about the contradictions of Enlightenment ideals to begin with. Liberty or death, for whom and of whom. It's often liberty and death, and liberty or death for labor or capital, for settlers or indigenous. And, obviously we're living through this long epoch of the liberty of capital, which obviously leads to some kind of what Kevin was alluding to, like almost death cult of self annihilation, looking for new frontiers, and then you pair that with imperialism. So yeah, I think everything is, the contradictions are so in such a multitude. It's hard to hold on to any iteration of utopia.
Yeah.
We're so sunk into a quicksand of contradictions. What can be salvaged from this
Well, right.
project?
Well, because it used to be the utopian blueprint was laid out by us. We were the inheritors of a utopian blueprint to begin with. When we talk about the West, we're talking about centuries of a certain kind of development. And then at a certain point, we had our antithesis, which could be either the opposition to it being the utopian blueprint or the emulation of it. So whether you were a communist dissenter and you wanted to be like the Soviet Union or China or whatever, or you were a Cold War warrior who wanted to protect American values. But now we have neither. Now we don't. The West is. I'm a big fan of the song "The Death of the West" because I agree with it. The real question is, I guess, is there a utopia in the East? Is there a different model being presented to us which we can? I don't know. What is the basis of utopia today, or what could be the basis of utopia?
Well, I don't know. There's certainly not an internationalist utopia in the East.
Well, yeah, that's
I mean,
true.
I think that like the best we can hope for from the East is a model to look towards and perhaps try to emulate its best parts while mitigating its worst parts. But I think that in Europe, there seems to be the vestiges of some sort of utopian EU project that is absolutely dystopian and nightmarish in reality, but that there's that the pundits and the politicians still refer to. I don't know if
they
that's
won't
cynical.
Let that go.
No, I don't know if it's cynical or what, but they still seem to think that it's worth, tanking their economies and turning into authoritarian like police states in order to preserve.
They think it's worth courting World War III. They think it's worth driving the world towards World War III. That's the main progenitor of the next World War is not Iran, it's not Russia, it's Europe.
Yeah, it's not even the United States. It's like France and the United Kingdom primarily.
Oh, Germany too. For now.
And Germany. For now.
No, but I mean, oh God, the UK. That's another thing. That's reading those articles by Brits criticizing the United States for being unfree. I'm just like, you do realize that you live in a worse place right now, right? It's objectively worse in the UK than it is in the United States as far as like press freedom is concerned.
Yeah, it's pretty rich.
It's very
the Republic's
rich.
over, coming from a place where you can't say free Palestine.
Exactly. Yeah.
Coming from a place without a constitution where you can't say free Palestine.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly.
See, at least
it's getting increasingly harder to say it here, but yeah.
At least in this country, though, that is an outrage because it's hypocrisy, because it is the opposite of what is the letter of the law. Officially, formally, I should be allowed to do this, and so if my rights are being infringed upon, I can say, "You're infringing upon my rights. You are treading on me."
Right?
Yeah. You say in Britain, you say, "I don't like this," so
you're supposed to do that.
Yeah, I actually, that. What do you call it? Vestige of a utopian vision that exists, it being the project of building a united Europe. I think is a really interesting case study in the total fucking failure of the left. Because you look across just like every European country right now, and the far right is ascendant everywhere and has been for well over a decade.
Right.
And the far left is just wallowing in, at best, like 10%, or something like that, if they're doing really well. and they just cannot make gains anywhere. And I'm open to hearing a counter argument against this, but I genuinely think that that the left's problem in Europe is that it has not, and perhaps is too late at this point to succeed with this tactic, but it has refused to unhitch its wagon from this United Europe, this EU utopianism, that the population widely regards the far right as the only credible
Right.
political agent of attacking this institution that everyone regards as being the cause of their suffering, that they don't want to be a part of. And the left has just abdicated its responsibility to attack institutions of capital.
What the European left seems to be primarily offering is a defense of what is. That's it. And even if they are critical of what is, of course people go toward, like you said, the people who have genuine responses, even if they're not going to be very effective, but genuine responses to people's grievances. And the left, I don't know what they stand for. I also don't know very many people in Europe who know what they stand for, other than that they think things should be better. So we all think they should be better. But this also is a big part of my my defense of a populist valence to our being socialists.
Melon shown.
Yeah, because if there is a way forward for socialists being demonstrated anywhere, I think it might be France, and it might be because of the populist left. It's because of this populist new popular front. This come one, come all. If you have a grievance, we know how to address it. And I don't think that they do necessarily always know how to address it. I'm not saying that this is the way. But if you can compare that to our the real Workers' Party of the real Fourth International reconstructed, there's no contest.
I mean, if you look at the pie chart, like in France, it's like Le Pen's party, this huge block, right? And then it takes all this huge coalition of the far left all the way to the center left to even be able to cut them off. So it's like, how can, I mean, that proves your point.